Very good morning, students. Again, today's topic is voice. Active voice, passive voice. In my previous video, I have taught you about active voice and passive voice. That means voice are of two types, active and passive. In my previous video, I have taught you what do you mean by active voice and passive voice. The definition part of active voice and passive voice. And in that video, I have also taught you how to identify active voice and passive voice. And for this, you have to make sure about the verb and its form. So let's check it out for today's the same topic, voice, active voice and passive voice. You have been taught earlier also about the tenses of voice in my previous video. So today we will clarify those tenses in active voice and passive voice and what are the structure for active voice and passive voice in relevant tenses, that is present tense, past tense, future tense. So here, as we are very well known about the sentences, the structure for sentence, that is subject, verb and object. Then in some sentences there are remaining part of the sentence. So come today here about tenses. So we are very well aware about tenses, that is there are three types of tenses, that is present tense, past tense and future tense. And each tense has four parts: simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. That means simple is also called indefinite tense. So we can also call it indefinite, then continuous, then perfect, then perfect continuous in each part. So first of all, look out about the tenses, that is present tense, the first tense, present tense. So here present tense, the first tense present indefinite, or you can call it simple present tense. So here active voice, the structure for simple present tense in active voice, first of all the subject come, then verb first form, then object, then remaining part of the sentence. So here I have indicated verb first form in bracket S or ES. So this means that here we have to follow the subject verb agreement. If the subject denotes singular, then we add ES or S. And if the subject does not denote singular, then we just write first form of verb without adding S or ES. So this is the structure for active voice. Now the structure for passive voice in indefinite tense, present indefinite. First is subject, then is, am, are, then verb third form, then object, then remaining part of the sentence. So here again we have to follow the subject verb agreement in present indefinite tense in passive voice. If subject denotes singular, we use is. If subject denote I, we use am. If subject denote plural or you, then we use are. And after that verb third form, then object, then remaining part of the sentence. So let's check it out. What is the differences between these two? So as earlier I have taught you in my previous video about active and passive voice that first of all the step which we have to follow for changing or converting active to passive or passive to active. So in that I have taught you that first of all we have to identify the verb and then doer of the verb, then receiver of the verb. So in active voice, doer of the verb becomes subject and receiver of the verb become object. So here subject denotes doer. This denotes doer, and here this object denotes receiver. So the receiver of the verb here is object and doer of the verb here is subject. So what is the difference in passive voice? Here subject. Subject here denote receiver and object here denote doer. So in active voice, doer of the verb is the subject. In passive voice, receiver of the verb is subject. Means what is object in active voice, it becomes subject in passive voice. And what is subject in active voice, it becomes object in passive voice. And here, as per the tenses, we are going to use the correct form of verb in active voice. But in passive voice, we always denote the main verb in third form. V3 means verb third form. So the structure for active voice in simple present tense or present indefinite tense: subject, verb first form. If subject denotes singular, we add s or es. If subject denote plural, we are not going to use this s or es. Then object, the receiver of the verb, then remaining part if there is required. Now in passive voice, the receiver of the verb here becomes subject. Then we use is, am, are. As per the subject verb agreement, if subject denotes singular, we use is. If subject denotes I, we use am. If subject denote you or plural case, we are going to use are. Then verb third form, the main verb used in third form. Then object means doer of the verb here become object, then remaining part of the sentence. Likewise in present continuous tense, the structure for present continuous tense in active voice: subject is, am, are, then verb ing form, then object, then remaining part of the sentence. So here again the doer of the verb here becomes subject and receiver of the verb become object. And is, am, are is used denoting ing form of the verb, denoting continuous case. So as it is present continuous tense, we have to use first of all doer of the verb denoting subject, then is, am, are, then verb ing form. So is, am, are we have to follow as per the subject verb agreement. Subject denote singular, we use is. Subject denoting I, we use am. Subject denoting you or plural case, we use are. Then after that we use ing form of the verb. Suppose here your verb is play, then we use here playing. Cry, crying. Sing, singing. So likewise ing form of the verb is used in active voice. Then object means receiver of the verb, then remaining part of the sentence if mentioned any. Now come to the structure for passive voice in present continuous tense. Subject is, am, are, being, verb third form, object, then remaining part. Means here the subject in active voice become object in passive voice. The object in active voice becomes subject in passive voice. Means the receiver here in passive voice is the subject, and if subject denotes singular we use is, subject denoting I we use am, subject denoting plural or you we use are. Then afterward being, being denoting the continuous case, and then verb third form. Then doer of the object verb, then remaining part of the sentence. So present perfect tense, subject doer of the verb, then has or have denote perfect case. If subject denotes singular we use have, if subject denote I, you or plural case we use have, then verb third form. So as it denote perfect case we use verb third form. Then object means receiver of the verb, and after that remaining part of the sentence. Likewise in passive voice the object means receiver of the verb here becomes subject, then has or have, then we add been, then verb third form, then doer of the verb here become object and remaining part. Present perfect continuous, subject has or have been, then verb ing form, object means receiver of the verb, remaining part. And for present perfect continuous tense generally we write no passive voice, means there is no passive voice for present perfect continuous tense. But in few cases we can make passive voice of present perfect continuous tense. But generally we can say that there is no passive voice for present perfect continuous tense. But in few cases, there are few cases where we can make the passive voice of present perfect continuous tense. For that I will teach you in my another video. So till here just try to understand the structure of active voice and passive voice in different kind of tenses. So likewise in past tense, so this was the case about present, present indefinite, present continuous, present perfect continuous. Now come to past case, past tense. So here subject means doer of the verb, and here we use second form of the verb. Means if verb is played, the second form of verb play is played, P-L-A-Y-E-D. Cry, cried, C-R-I-E-D, cried. So likewise we use second form of verb, then object means receiver of the verb, and if any remaining part is there we write remaining part of the sentence. So likewise the difference in passive voice, the structure, the object means the receiver of the verb here becomes subject, then we use was or were. So was or were, again here we are going to follow the subject verb agreement. If subject is I or singular case we use was, if subject is you or plural then we use were. Then third form of the verb. Then object means doer of the verb here become object and remaining part if any there. Likewise past continuous tense, subject doer of the verb, was or were if singular case, or I was if plural case, or you we write were. And as it is continuous so we write ing form of the verb. Then object means receiver of the verb and remaining part. Likewise in passive voice subject means receiver of the verb here becomes subject, then was or were we follow the subject verb agreement. If subject singular I or singular case we use was, if subject denote you or plural case we use were. And then afterward as it is continuous case so we use being, then verb third form. Then object means object here is what? The receiver of the doer of the verb here in passive voice become object. then remaining part of the sentence if any there. Next come to past perfect tense. So past perfect case, so subject doer of the verb, then had denoting past case in perfect tense and verb third form. Then receiver of the verb means what is the receiver of the verb here become object and remaining part. Likewise in passive voice, the receiver of the verb here becomes subject, had been denoting past perfect case, then verb third form. Object means doer of the verb and remaining part if any there. Past perfect continuous tense. Past perfect continuous, subject doer of the verb, had been, then verb ing form. As it denotes continuous case, we use ing form of the verb. Then object means receiver of the verb and remaining part if any there. Likewise, in passive voice, the structure for present perfect continuous tense in passive voice that generally as in present case, present perfect continuous, likewise in past perfect continuous, we write no passive voice. Clear? Means in general case there is no passive voice for passive voice in past perfect continuous tense. But in few cases we can make the passive voice of past perfect continuous also. We will learn about that in another video, but here just try to understand the structure for active voice and passive voice in different types of tenses. So likewise come to future tense, the third tense, future tense. So in future tense also, future indefinite, that is called simple future tense. So subject will or shall, we use the modal verb here, will or shall denoting future case, and verb first form is always used in future case, whether subject denoting singular case or plural case or any subject, just write first form of verb after will or shall. Then object means receiver of the verb, remaining part if any there. In passive voice, subject here means the receiver of the verb becomes subject, will or shall denoting future case, and then afterward we add BEB, and after that we use third form of verb. Then object here means doer of the verb become object in passive voice and remaining part of the sentence. Likewise in future continuous tense, subject, then will or shall, BEB, then verb ing form, then object remaining part means doer of the verb, will or shall modal denoting future case, BEB, and afterward ing form as it denote continuous case, and object means receiver of the verb, then remaining part. And for passive voice we just write no passive voice for future continuous tense. Future perfect tense, subject, will or shall, then have. In future case we just write have, whether subject singular or plural, and as it is denoting perfect case, so in perfect case also whether active voice or passive voice we always use third form of verb, then receiver of the verb and remaining part if there any. And in passive voice, subject, will or shall, have been, verb third form, object means doer of the verb and remaining part. Likewise in future perfect continuous, subject, will or shall, have been, verb ing form, object means receiver of the verb, remaining part if any there. And for future perfect continuous, likewise present perfect, past perfect continuous, future perfect continuous, as we have mentioned no passive voice, so for this case also no passive voice. So in my earlier video, as I have taught you that active voice and passive voice. So in active voice I have mentioned you 12 tenses. So, and in active voice you can see the structure for all the 12 tenses. But in passive voice there are only 8 tenses. So in the structure for passive voice, you can see only structure for 8 tenses only. That is 3 from present case, 3 from past case and 2 from future case. So this is all about the structure about voice in active voice, passive voice, about the tenses. So by this video you will be able to understand very clearly about voice also and about tenses also. So this is all about.